At JWT, we film our shows for documentation purposes. During this unprecedented time, we are pulling stories from our extensive archives to share with you during these 8 days of Passover. Please enjoy.
When my father puts down the receiver, he looks at us in the dining room and says, "It started." No one needs to be told what he means. It's common knowledge that these telephone calls will come at all hours of the night. Threatening, obscene, abusive calls in which an unidentified voice will remind us that we are nothing, that we have no rights, and will soon be driven out like the French and British before us. It is the fall of 1964. We decide to move to my grandmother's home in another neighborhood in Alexandria, not far from ours. That way, everyone in the family can be together. My mother is put in charge of selling all our furniture. I never meet the man who buys everything, nor do I witness the transaction or the actual lining up of our bedroom and dining room furniture on the sidewalk. I come home from school one day to find the place empty. I ask my father if he's going to throw away all the books left on the floor. "No," he says, "we will take them with us." He says he can still remember witnessing his parents' emptied home 30 years before, on the day they had left Constantinople, as had his father seen his own father's home, and our ancestors before that as well. And I will too, one day, though he doesn't wish it on me, but everything repeats itself. I protest, saying, "I'm free from Sephardi superstitions." "You think you are," is all he says. The news that my father has lost everything arrives at dawn one Saturday in early spring 1965. The bearer is my father's night foreman, who immediately bursts into a fit of hysterical crying. "They took the factory. They wouldn't let me call you, so I had to come." Both men begin sobbing in each other's arms. A few of those we known who had lost fortunes went about living normal, everyday lives with the same number of houses and cars and servants. On them, however, looms the stigma, even the shame of the fallen, and it comes with a strange odor that gives them away. It is the smell of leather. "Did you smell the abattoir?" is my father's word for it, whispered after visiting friends who are about to leave the country. Every Jewish family knows it is destined to leave Egypt sooner or later, and in one room, usually locked and hidden from guests, sit 30 to 40 leather suitcases in which mothers and aunts keep packing their family's belongings at a slow, meticulous pace, always hoping that things might right themselves in the end. One morning, he sits me down. "I want you to be a big boy now," he says, the night after reading the warrant. "Listen carefully." I want to cry. He notices, stares at me a while, and then holds my hand and says, "Cry." I feel a tremor race through my lower lip, down my chin. I struggle with it, bite my tongue, and then shake my head to signal that I'm not going to cry. It's not easy, I know, but this is what I want you to do. Since it's clear that arrest me tomorrow, the most important thing is to help your mother. Have everyone pack as much as they can and purchase tickets for all of us. It's easier than you think, but in case I am detained, I want you to leave anyway. I will follow later. That evening, he teaches me how to forge his signature, and then, as they do in the movies, we burn the page on which I've practiced it. 2 days later, my father telephones. "We've been officially expelled," he says, "and have a week to get our things together." "Abattoir?" I ask. "Abattoir," he replies. Despite the frantic packing, my mother, grandmother, and Aunt Elsa decide that we should hold a Passover Seder on the eve of our departure. Aunt Elsa wants to clean the house, to remove all traces of bread, as Jews traditionally do in preparation for Passover, but with the suitcases all over the place and upside down, nobody is eager to undertake such a task, and the idea is abandoned. Then why have a Seder? She asks with embittered sarcasm. Be glad we're having one at all, replies my father. The evening of the Seder, Aunt Elsa implores me to help read the Haggadah. Each time I refuse, she reminds me that this is the last time this dining room will ever see a Seder. Are you ashamed of being Jewish? Is that it? What kind of Jews are we then? She keeps asking, the kind who don't celebrate leaving Egypt when it's the last thing they want to do. I motion to my mother that I'm going for a walk, and she nods. Outside, Rue Delta is brimming with people. It's the first night of Ramadan, and the guns marking the end of the fast have gone off 3 hours earlier. There is unusual bustle and clamor, with people gathered in groups, standing in the way of traffic, making things livelier still, the scent of holiday pastries and fried treats filling the air. As I near the seafront, the night air grows cooler, saltier. Traffic becomes sparse. Only the waves can be heard thudding in the dark, spraying the air. At the corner of a street, from a sidewalk stall, comes the smell of fresh dough and of angel hair being fried on top of a large copper stand, a common sight throughout the city every Ramadan. People fold the pancakes and stuff them with almonds and syrup and raisins. The vendor catches me eyeing one of the cakes. He smiles and says, Edfdo, help yourself. I imagine Aunt Elsa saying, but it's Pesach! My grandmother would disapprove too. Eating food fried by Arabs off the street, unconscionable. The Egyptian doesn't want any money. It's for you, he says, handing me the delicacy on a torn sheet of newspaper. I wish him a good evening and take the soggy pancake out onto the seafront. There, heaving myself up on the stone wall, I sit with my back to the city, facing the sea, holding the delicacy I'm about to devour. I look out at the stars, and I think, over there is Spain and France, to the right Italy, straight ahead the land of Salon and Pericles. The world is timeless and boundless, and I think of all the shipwrecked, homeless mariners who had strayed to this very land and for years had tinkered away at their boats, praying for a wind, only to grow soft and reluctant when their time came. I watch a group of children scampering about on the beach below, waving little Ramadan lanterns, and some even wave up to me, and I wave back with a familiar gesture of street fellowship. And suddenly, I know. As I touch the damp, grainy surface of the seawall, that I will always remember this night. That in years to come, I will remember sitting here, swept with confused longing as I listen to the water lapping the giant boulders beneath the promenade and watch the children head towards the shore in a winding procession. I want to come back tomorrow night, and the night after that, and the one after that as well, sensing that what makes leaving so fiercely painful is the knowledge that there will never be another night like this, that I will never eat soggy cakes along the coast road in the evening, not this year or any other year, nor feel the baffling, sudden beauty of the moment when, if only for an instant, I catch myself longing for a city I never knew I loved. Exactly a year from now, I vow, I will sit outside at night, wherever I am, somewhere in Europe or America, and turn my face to Egypt, as Muslims do when they pray and face Mecca, and remember this night, the last in Alexandria.